Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, wanted to squeeze in today some reading of Nietzsche's The Spoke Zarathustra book. I really enjoyed it so far. Very witty and gets you thinking about life, which is great. Who doesn't want to do that? And so while the little one is napping and the food is in the oven, I want to get some reading done. Okay, let's begin. If you recall, we were in the section that was titled The Child with the Mirror. With these words, Zarathustra leaped up, not like a frightened man seeking air, but rather as a seer and a singer who is moved by the spirit. Amazed, his eagle and his serpent looked at him. Now, the eagle and the serpent, what's really unique about these animals, the eagle flies up high, swoops down, can spot its lunch from very far, has talons. It's always been a top predator bird, so when you see its shadow, you know it's up to something. And if you ever have an eagle on your arm, it could easily take out your eye or your nose and fly away before you can really do any damage. So they're always very formidable. And when it comes to a serpent, their venom, their ability to camouflage themselves, they're obviously poisonous. Some of them can be quite fast when they strike, yet they were seen as very wise creatures at the same time. So you have this symbology of the wise eagle, the wise serpent, the deadly eagle, the deadly serpent, but both the eagle and the serpent take out rodents and do pest control. Okay, they are very important. But the snake can eat your chicken eggs, the eagle will snatch your chickens up, often. They're gonna get themselves some lunch. They'll take your cat too, your chihuahua. If they're hungry, they're gonna find something to eat, right? And so they have this dual nature. But eagle flies, snake is on the ground. And some snakes are even water snakes, so they're gonna swim across the river to get you if they want. But to be able to look to the earth, which is like an eagle, which is like the snake symbology, to be leveled because the snake goes on its belly, and then to think higher, have your head in the clouds, to soar in your mind, there's that eagle symbology. Especially with the tribes, the way in which they use the talking points of the serpent and the eagle is quite different. Especially when you look at how people would say in their myths, to argue with an eagle, like their eyes are stone cold. A bald eagle's eyes are like, it's always angry at you. You can't tell a joke to a bald eagle, And to tell a serpent, talk sweet to it so it doesn't strike you like a rattlesnake or one of those dancing cobras, You're like, hey, don't bite me, They're not very moved by your tears. So when someone uses this unique sentence of his eagle and his serpent looked at him, an eagle looks at you, you feel it. You're like, ugh. Snake looks at you, you're like, what are you gonna do, buddy? Very unique. For like dawn, a coming happiness lay reflected in his face. What has happened to me, my animals? Said Zarathustra. Have I not changed? Has not bliss come to me as a storm? My happiness is foolish and will say foolish things. It is still young, so be patient with it. I am wounded by my happiness. Let all who suffer be my physicians. Let all who suffer be my physicians. This is very witty because if you've suffered deeply in your life, there are people who they want to hear another sad story, because by hearing someone else's suffering, you relieve some of your own. You realize you're not alone. A good example of this was maybe 2-3 weeks ago. I shared an interview of a woman who did investigations and autopsies and stuff on victims of SA, R words and stuff. She had to deal with things that were very, very heavy, right? She would then say that her watching Soft White Underbelly, even though she was being interviewed on it on YouTube, helped her to kind of cope. And I understand that kind of stuff. I always was prone to Greek tragedy. I like hearing stories about that, and my mind would also like to watch cemetery videos, true crime videos, stuff like that, because it just makes you see you're not alone. There's other people suffering worse. You have to have gratitude. It doesn't minimize your effort, but it helps you feel better. Now, you don't want to dwell too long. You don't want to become cynical and just totally checked out and wallowing in the gallows. But there is something to it when you don't shy away from raw reality. You actually become stronger. People who always want to live in the clouds, like the Zen masters, right? They really have that way of trying to relieve suffering. And they're just, meditating in the forest under a tree. You're like, okay, you cut out everything. You're just focusing on your mind connected to nirvana, but you've run away from your humanness in a way. But some people, they can't handle any bad news. They have a very different type of disposition. They want to see cute stuff constantly. And that's their way of coping. So I see both sides. But when I read something here, let all who suffer be my physicians, that's what it reminds me of. When I see someone else suffering, I'm like, wow, that's intense. What the kind of suffering varies, though. I don't like seeing kids in war zones. It breaks my heart, right? Or kids with cancer. But when I see someone who survived a brutal beating and they fought for their life, right? And they're just covered in blood, right? Fictional or real. You're like, yeah, that person suffered. I'm going to keep going too. You can get motivated by it. You actually feel like your own sadness, your own depression, your own anxiety, your own angst, your own disillusionment fades, and you actually become more into your being. You become more present, I'd argue. I hope you see my point. I may go down again to my friends, and to my enemies too. Zarathustra may speak again, and give and do what is dearest to those dear to him. My impatient love overflows in rivers, downward toward sunrise and sunset. From silent mountains and thunderstorms of suffering, my soul rushes into the valleys. Too long have I longed and looked into the distance. Too long have I belonged to loneliness. Thus I have forgotten how to be silent. Mouth have I become through and through in the roaring of a stream from towering cliffs. I want to plunge my speech down into the valley. Let the river of my love plunge where there is no way. Now this one is really cool. Let my love plunge where there is no way. So the floodgates, that's going to make a new path. That's going to really tear up the greenery. When you unleash your love, your passion, it can pave a new route. And that means it's overflowing. You have so much there that it's going to push through. Going to be potent. And that's how you know that person is kind of ready for the job. Being the change maker. How could a river fail to find its way to the sea? Indeed, a lake is within me, solitary and self-sufficient. But the river of my love carries it along, down to the sea. I like this because you're getting at water bodies, these analogies, these symbols, and a lake is fascinating because if a lake is well tended, right, the fish are there, the bugs are there, the plant life's there, you don't overfish, it can last a while, right? the river that drains to the ocean, it's more moving and things can come and go, but there's not always going to be fish there because the fish have freedom to move, whereas in a lake they're stuck, right? So when we hear something like that his love is going to be carried along to the bigger broad ocean, it's like him letting us know, in my mind, that his message, his effect, will reach the bigger group of society, not just stay within him. Because remember, he said he has a lake within him, so that's still self-sufficiency, that comfort in your own mind, fortitude within your own self. It's very important to have that. But he's also contending that he has that, but he also has the ability to spread it out as well. So the best of both worlds, I argue. New ways I go, a new speech comes to me. Weary I grow, like all creators of the old tongues. My spirit no longer wants to walk on worn souls. Too slowly runs all speech for me. Into your chariot I leap. Storm! And even you I want to whip with my sarcasm. Sarcasm can be quite whippy, and I do like sarcasm. Sarcasm is like a whip when it's done right. And, you can't always be sarcastic, but it is quite funny. Like a cry and a shout of joy, I want to sweep over wide seas till I find the blessed isles where my friends are dwelling, and my enemies among them. How I now love all to whom I may speak. My enemies, too, are part of my bliss. Now, what's unique about this, if your enemies are your bliss, then they cannot really defeat you because you enjoy that. There's a saying, it might not be the exact same as what we're getting at, but they tell you, oh, don't roll around with pigs in the mud because you'll find out that the pig actually likes it. The human doesn't like it, right? They're trying to wrestle the pig. They think, oh, I'm getting you all dirty, I'm winning, I'm pushing you around, but the pig's like happy to be covered in mud. And so you can't defeat somebody, your enemy, if, how do I put it? Going tit for tat and discussing stuff and being enthusiastic about it, even though you oppose that person, it's not going to have the same detrimental mind control, right? It depends on the enemy, though, as well. Like, if they're coming after your family and they're being obnoxious, obviously that's annoying. But if your enemy is an honest enemy, an honest contender, that's different. I think a physical example that I would look to understand this is that I never had women who pulled my hair when I fought. They always punched like men, and I always respected them for that, even though I disliked them. They weren't cowards to roll around, pull hair, and just be a cliche form of a catty woman. They squared up, put their fists in, and we slugged it out. They lost, but I got a huge adrenaline rush from it, and I really enjoyed it. It was so spiritually purifying when people can just beat the crap out of each other and not try to end each other's lives afterwards just because they lost or something, or drag it out forever. You fought, you lost, you won, you moved on. That was good. It was good. It was part of the bliss, So I think in many situations, sometimes your enemies can give you a sort of outlet for your growth. They challenge you. The right enemy, though, right? The right enemy. A wicked, sinister, vile enemy is quite different than an enemy who has a certain thing they dislike, and then they approach you in a way, a contested way that is manageable. And when I want to mount my wildest horse, it is always my spear that helps me up best, as the ever-ready servant of my foot. The spear that I hurl against my enemies, how grateful I am to my enemies that I may finally hurl it. Yeah, see, so this one is very poetic as well. The spear, I mean, imagine the satisfaction of that process, and your enemy gave you the opportunity. When you go hunting, you can imagine the people who hunted bigger elephants and whatnot. They had to do it as a group. They focus on making their arrowheads, their spearheads, and they gotta go get that. And it feels good to be the spear thrower if you have the right target. You prepare a weapon, and then the moment presents itself where you test your skills. But if that moment never presented itself, you'd never get to test and find out whether your aim was right, or you wouldn't be able to spot your imperfection or what you excel at. So there wouldn't be room for improvement. The tension of my cloud was too great. Between the laughter of lightning bolts, I want to throw showers of hail into the depths. Violently my chest will expand, violently will it blow its storm over the mountains, and thus find relief. Verily like a storm come my happiness and my freedom. But let my enemies believe that the evil one rages over their heads. So he mentions relief, my freedom, happiness, storm overhead, right? He's finding gratefulness in his enemies, but he wants his enemies to think that the evil one is raging over their heads. So it seems like illusion, deception. Don't reveal how much you enjoy it. Let them mingle in fear. Indeed, you too will be frightened, my friends, by my wild wisdom, and perhaps you will flee from it, together with my enemies. Would that I knew how to lure you back with shepherds' flutes. Would that my lioness wisdom might learn how to roar tenderly. Ah, that'd be a paradox. A tender roar, not the kind that makes you flee, but kind of like gets your attention, perks your ears. The shepherd's flute. if you play some songs for cows, sometimes they'll come to you. You should. There's videos of that online. Someone will be like, loo, 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 loo. And the cows, they come home, you know, ding 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 ding. Dogs will run. I used to do that with my grandma's dogs. There was a clicker on the back of the door, click 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 click, and like all the dogs would come running. So lots of livestock, they do come with the sound of some type of jingle or something. So this shepherd of wisdom, protecting your flock, being mixed with actual like husbandry is pretty cool. And many things have we already learned together. My wild wisdom became pregnant on lonely mountains. On rough stones she gave birth to her youngest. Now she runs foolishly through the harsh desert, and seeks gentle turf, my old wild wisdom. Upon your hearts, gentle turf, my friends, upon your love, she would bed her most dearly beloved. Thus spoke Zarathustra. Very interesting section here. The lake within, the river of his love plunging where there's no way. Enemies are a part of his bliss. He's thankful to his enemies that he'll finally be able to hurl what he must hurl. Sarcastic whip. Quite brilliant. Talks about fullness of in self, pain with its fullness, the solitary, and how his wisdom grew. The mountains, obviously. I really like this one. I'm going to put a star next to this one because this is a very introspective, serious, albeit melancholy section that you can read in a number of ways. It's one thing that's great about philosophy is you're not stuck to just this, and that. In some aspects, can't go too far off. But allowing the text to interact with your mind and then you extracting what it is you got from it is very valuable. Very valuable, I must say. I hope you enjoyed that reading, and if you'd like to support the channel and join my blog and see some stuff I post on there, it's www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. I want to save to buy a homestead, kind of get out of the immediate area that I'm in. You know, kind of want to go to the farm life. So, if you're able to help me save for that, that would be great. No pressure though. I'm just not monetized or anything like that because I hate commercials. And some wise sheikhs have said that's haram to do. So, yeah. Okay. Until next time. See you then.